How do you configure the camera? This lesson is for a Carlmont High School sports leadership class for the Nikon D5600. Basic configurations: exposure modes, autofocus, shutter modes, ISO level. Exposure modes. Exposure modes: PSAM, program, shutter priority, aperture priority, and manual. The command dial is the green C in the picture above. Exposure mode program. Program equals P. Focus allows you to select what to focus on, not the camera. Flash. You select to use or not use the flash. This is what I use instead of auto and what I recommend that you use. Exposure mode, shutter priority. You set the shutter speed to use. The camera selects the aperture to use. Best when you want to use a specific shutter speed. How to? Set the mode dial to S on the top picture. Look at the rear screen, bottom picture, to see the shutter speed. The shutter speed is in the red circle. Adjust the shutter speed by turning the command dial, the green C. Exposure mode, aperture priority. You select the aperture to use, the camera selects the shutter speed to use. Best when you want to use a specific aperture, like wide open for night games. How to? Set the mode dial to A. Look at the rear screen, bottom picture, and you're going to look at the aperture number. That's the one in the green circle. Adjust the aperture by turning the command dial. That's the green C in the top picture, until you get that aperture to the number you want. Exposure mode manual. You have full control over the shutter speed and aperture. Best when lighting conditions are difficult for the camera to correctly meter. Like in the bottom left picture, the sun is reflecting off the aluminum benches. So the camera is saying, whoa, too bright. And it's darkening the picture, so your players are turned dark. Right picture, dark background and dark curtain. Camera saying, whoa, too dark. So it lightens the picture, and your subjects become overexposed. How to set manual. Turn the mode dial to M. Look at the rear screen for the next two steps. Adjust the shutter speed. Turn the command dial, the green C, till the shutter speed in the red circle reaches the number you want. Adjust the aperture. Press and hold down the aperture button, that's the one in the blue square, and turn the command dial to reach the aperture in the green circle on the bottom picture till it reaches the number that you want. Pause the video. Now, you try it on your camera. Autofocus. Focus modes: AFS, AFC, area modes, single point, dynamic, and tracking. Focus modes: AFS is single shot. The camera will not fire until the lens is focused. AFC equals continuous. The camera will focus continuously as you are shooting. Normally, the camera will fire even if the lens is not in focus. The sports leadership cameras have been configured to not fire until the lens is in focus. We had issues with the 17-50 gem lens where the camera was firing, but the lens was not yet in focus for several frames. The problem was the autofocus motor in that lens was not fast. Set the AF focus mode. On the back of the camera, press the I button. On the screen, where you see in the image the red square, that is the AF focus mode. If that is not showing this mode that you want, tap it or press the OK button, and you'll go to number 2. This is where you can select the focus mode that you want, either AFS or AFC. Move over it with the round direction pad, or tap whichever one you want, AFS or AFC. Pause the video. Now, you try it on your camera. Area mode. Each mode has pros and cons. Single point. There is one focus point. You have to put and hold it on the subject. Dynamic. You first put the AF point on the subject, and the camera tracks the subject within the zone. Problem is, the camera tracking can be fooled. AF area modes. Nikon D5600. Areas are approximate. Single point. That is a top picture. The red square on the girl's face. Dynamic 9. It's a 3x3 matrix. The second picture, where the red square covers her face. Dynamic 21. It's a 5x5 matrix. It's the red square covering her entire head. Dynamic 39 is all the focus areas inside of the black outline and the bottom picture. Setting the AF area mode. On the back of the camera, press the I button on the back. On the info screen, there are 2 items to look at. The left in the red square is the focus mode. Right is the AF area. Tap the AF area mode. Setting the AF area mode. What you can select in the AF area mode is dependent on what is set in the focus mode. As shown on this table, if your focus mode is AFS, you can only select single point or auto area. If your focus mode is AFC, you can select single point, D9, D21, D39, 3D, or auto area. However, there are limitations. I recommend, if you're using AFS, that you only use single point. Do not use auto area. If you're using AFC, I recommend you use only single point, D9, or D21. Do not use any of the other options. Autofocus single point. For school purposes, shooting many sports and events, single point is the best compromise. Putting the single AF point into the center, put the AF point on your subject. Know how to recognize where the AF point is. It's a little box in the viewfinder. Know how to move the AF point around. And pressing the OK button will return the AF point to the center. To move the AF point in the viewfinder, find the AF point in the viewfinder. Normally it will be a little square in the center of the screen. Just look at the picture with the red dot on the girl's face. Using the round pad on the back of the camera, move the pad left, right, or up and down, and you will move the focus point. Once you've got the focus point to where you want, just let go. It'll stay there. When you are done, or if you can't figure out what happened, press the OK button and the AF point will reset to the center. Pause the video. Now, you try it on your camera. Shutter. Single shot. You press the shutter and the camera fires one shot. Good for presentations and student life where you only want one shot. Continuous. You press and hold the shutter down. The camera keeps firing until you release the shutter. This is for most sports. Use continuous high to shoot at the fastest speed your camera can. On the D5600, it is about 5 frames per second. Don't bother with continuous low. Press the shutter mode button. That's number 14 in this picture in the red circle. Select the shutter mode. On the display on the back of the camera, you will see the picture on the top left. Tap on either S or H, depending on which you want. S for single, H for high, continuous high. Or use the round direction pad to move to the right or left to select either S or H, then press OK. You need to synchronize the shutter mode and autofocus. If you look on the left column, these are the shutter modes, and on the right column, the autofocus modes. Single shot shutter needs to be set to AFS. Continuous high, you need to set it to AFC. Pause the video. Now, you try it on your camera. ISO level. ISO level. The ISO level is the sensitivity of the camera to light. Setting it to a larger number makes the camera more sensitive to light for night games and in the gym. Auto. The camera will select the ISO level for you. This is the default that we've set for the Carlmont Sports Leadership cameras. Alternative is where you can specify the ISO level that you want. The end. Thank you.